Welcome to today's HUG E-Academy webinar. My name is Sarah Bryan, and I'd like to thank you and welcome you. Before we start, just a few housekeeping notes. You are all on mute so we can hear our speaker today without any background noise. Due to the number of people in attendance, we'll take questions at the end of the presentation. If you have a question, please ask your question at any time in the Q&A box found in your Zoom dashboard. We'll be able to get to your questions easily from there. Tomorrow we'll have the recording and slides of today's presentation available on HUG Online for you to access. Now I'd like to pass the floor over to today's presenter. Thank you, Gary, for joining us. The floor is now yours.
All right, thank you. Thank you everyone for attending, as well as HUG for having me here today. It's exciting talking about Kibana. You know, we've started looking at Kibana and this technology over the last year and a half or so, and it's started early on as, hey, look at this new analytics tool. And it was involved just with for system administrators, and now it's evolved into this product that is available for application users, and PeopleSoft, Oracle, they continue to enhance the content. So very exciting. But before I get into all those details, let me just introduce myself. My name is Gary Dranikowski. I'm with SpearMC Consulting, and I'm out of our Pittsburgh office. I've been doing PeopleSoft reporting and analytics for about 20 years. And through those roles, I worked for actually PeopleSoft. This was my first job out of college. So I've seen a few things, and then did some independent consulting for a while, worked at KPMG for a few years, and then joined SpearMC last year. And my background really coming from PeopleSoft, analytics, reporting was a natural fit to take on this Kibana product at SpearMC. And just excited that, you know, a lot of people are really embracing it. And there's an opportunity for these analytics within the PeopleSoft reporting landscape. And really just, I want everybody to be as excited as I am about this product. But that's enough about me. And now I'll talk a little bit about SpearMC. So Spear has been around for a little over 15 years now, but our offices are throughout the United States. And our most recent office was here in Pittsburgh that I joined in 2019. We focused primarily on PeopleSoft, FSCM, HCM, and then we do a lot of work with grants and healthcare research in institutions. Additional work we do is with hosting, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. We got our start actually in PeopleSoft training, and that's what we did for quite a few years. And we still have a ton of training classes that we offer throughout the year, as well as private training classes. Then the last really big chunk, and I'll bucket these but speak about them separately, is our managed services. So managed services, we do support for numerous customers throughout the US, and we've got managed services support, testing as a service as part of that. We do ongoing training, and just a lot of happy products, and specifically within the healthcare as well as higher ed space. So today's presentation really focuses on Kibana, and what I want to talk about, the users who will be interested, these are HCM and FSCM users. I don't get too technical in today's presentation. I try to keep it high level so that I can introduce folks to Kibana and how it can be used and how it can help your organization. But I do have a expectation, or I don't know if it's an expectation, but there are assumption that people understand Elasticsearch and reporting, and then folks that are interested in additional PeopleSoft training tied to Kibana or Elasticsearch, also great candidates for this presentation. This is my agenda slide for today. So I'm going to talk about Kibana, how that fits in with PeopleSoft. Then I will do a demo, talk a little bit, walk us through some of the delivered slides, some custom things that I've developed, and then I want you guys to understand the interactivity and how easy this tool is to use. Obviously, there's a development and backend side that some of it takes Some of it's the Kibana side, some of it's done in PeopleSoft. So I'll touch on that as well. Then I'll do a summary wrap up at the end, and then we can take questions. So we'll hold off on all questions until that point, but go ahead and put them in the window and we'll try to catch up with those. But if anything comes up throughout the session, then Dee Dee may step up and just let me know that there's a question that was relevant to that exact point in time. But if we don't get to it, I'll either get to it at the end or I will respond to you offline after the presentation. So PeopleSoft and Kibana. Actually, I like this graph that I used here because this is one of the type of visualizations that Kibana allows for on our dashboards, which is a word cloud. So in this section, PeopleSoft and Kibana are the focus of what I want to talk about. What we're looking at here, this is the PeopleSoft reporting matrix. And there are really 5 tools. I guess you could put a 6th tool in here. I didn't list it, which would be BI Publisher. But these 5 tools are the tools that primarily are used for reporting within PeopleSoft. And each one of these has areas that they're good at, some that they're not good at, or maybe a lot of the answers in here are yes, no, but I did have one row that was a high, medium, and low. So you have query, SQR, Envision, pivot grids, and Kibana. Query is sort of your foundational tool that is delivered with PeopleSoft. Actually, all these tools are delivered with PeopleSoft, but query is sort of the, everyone should be familiar with query. SQRs typically used for more batch reporting and larger data processing. Envision used a lot with Excel reporting. Pivot grids, these, and Kibana, these are our analytical reporting tools. And I point that out because these tools look a lot different than the other two, right? More visual representation of your data instead of just having everything in Excel spreadsheets or data dumps. But why would you use each one of these tools varies. So for large data sets, SQR and Kibana seem to be the best ways to access large sets of data. The ironic part is the underlying query that that Kibana actually uses is based off of a query, but we're not using the query. We only use the query to extract data. So even though, because that may come up later, someone may ask, well, query says no for large data sets, but I thought you just told me that Kibana uses query. I'll talk about that later, but I did point that out just in case somebody has that question because it's come up before. Built for speed. Once again, SQR and Kibana are the 2 best ways for reports that you want to get quickly. Notifications using query or pivot grids is the way to go for that. Advanced visualizations, Kibana all the way. There's some pretty good visualizations and pivot grids too, but I think I'd really highlight Kibana in that one. Ease of use, query and Kibana are the 2 easiest to use, and that's really from an end user perspective. Real-time data, everything is real-time except for Kibana. And Kibana, that is because we report off of search indexes and not off of the actual database tables, which is why it's good for large data sets and built for speed. But there is that at some point we have to populate those indexes, which is why it's not real-time data. But Oracle is working on some solutions to get Kibana to be real-time, or at least very near real-time. End user creation. Most end users will not be building things in Kibana, but it's interactive and it allows you to drill in and modify your view. So technically, you could say that end users can create, but I marked it as no because it's not 100% end user creation. Then Excel integration. From a Kibana perspective, Excel really is exports to CSV, but no interactivity and pulling the data back in automatically. So great grid. When you guys have the slide, this is a good reference. As I mentioned, analytics in PeopleSoft. Oracle has said that they are making a strategic investment within analytics. And what are they referring to? They're referring to the money they're putting into pivot grids, simplified analytics, personalized analytic notifications, and Kibana. And this slide really shows different views of how those are used. And you'll see some of this on the various work centers that we pull up, or the tiles that we use. Pivot grids versus Kibana, two analytical tools here. So when would you use pivot grids? When would you use Kibana? And can you do, sometimes would you do the same thing in both, or what makes them unique or makes them similar, right? So let's start with the similarities. Both of these can be used as dashboards and related content tiles in PeopleSoft. So the content that you create within Kibana and pivot grids, that gets embedded directly into your PeopleSoft pages. They're included with PeopleSoft. So you're not buying a separate license. And then PeopleSoft native security rules apply. So security rules that get set up with PeopleSoft applies when you're running reports in Kibana or within pivot grids. Now, where do they set, how are they different then? Real-time pivot grids. Kibana, data refreshed on a schedule. I talked about this a few seconds ago, but essentially Kibana runs off of the Elasticsearch indexes. Advanced visualizations. Kibana's visualization capabilities, there are 18 different visualizations that are available. Probably 12 of those, 10 to 12 of those are used in Oracle delivered dashboards that they've provided. So a lot of different ways to view data, not just a simple pie chart or line graph. They're optimized for speed, whereas pivot grids, those of you who have used a lot of pivot grids, they're not necessarily the fastest performing, but they do, they have some features that Kibana can't provide, basically like the personal notification thresholds and the simplified analytics. Then jumping back to Kibana side though, large data sets, once again, you're not hitting the database. And then trending across time with Kibana is a nice feature, because when you add a time dimension onto some of the grids, it will allow you to view your point in time data sets. So the Elastic company, this is the company that actually owns the Kibana tool. I'm sure Elastic sounds familiar because of Elasticsearch, right? Everybody who's on PeopleTools 8.5.5 and beyond has at least heard of Elasticsearch. I assume everybody on this call has, but the Elasticsearch is the product that really introduced PeopleSoft to the Elastic company. And you have the Elk stack, and these are the three main components of the Elastic company. Or there are other products, but I view these as sort of the founding fathers, right? So you have Elasticsearch, which is the search tool, Logstash, which is an ETL type tool that ingests data and loads it into Elasticsearch indexes. And then there's Kibana. And Kibana is the reporting tool that the Elastic company has built that allows you to do really these beautiful dashboards and visualizations on top of Elasticsearch indexes. So how has this evolved with PeopleSoft? In PeopleTools 8.5.5 and prior, the Oracle Secure Enterprise Search was the search tool used for searching within PeopleSoft. In 8.5.5, Elasticsearch was introduced as that search tool. So at that point, you had SES as well as Elasticsearch. By 8.5.6, SES had gone away. There was some troubles with performance and the way it operated, and the Elasticsearch tool just really worked well. So they completely got rid of the SES. So 8.5.6 and beyond, everything from searching perspective was now available in Elasticsearch indexes. In 8.5.7, Kibana was brought into the stack. And what did that do? That allowed system administrators to view performance metrics that were tied to back-end, really administrative tracking, and do some dashboarding and simple visualizations against server data files, right? Log files, etc. A good tool for a small group of users. But through that process, Oracle really learned about, hey, well, Kibana, it really just reads off the search indexes. So we have all these search indexes that we have data in. How can we report data on top of that? Well, let's just use Elasticsearch as our source and then have Kibana point to that, and we can start building visualizations. It took a little while, I think, to get the security piece of that all tied in, but once we got that working, we were able to now build dashboards and visualizations in 858 that included all application data for anything that had a search index. After 858, I mean, well, we're 858 now, but what Oracle is starting to really do now is focus in on content. So what can they provide from a content perspective that will allow users to really view data, application data right in the system? And they're building dashboards. They are creating new search indexes that are specifically built for reporting and analytics. So if you think about a search, just standard search index, you might be looking at a bunch of dimensions like searching for a name or a department, but you're not really looking at actual dollar amounts tied to those. So what Oracle has done is they've started to look at how do we put additional information into search indexes and allow people to report off of those. And that's some of the things they're building. And then as a consumer, we are also have the capability to custom build these Elasticsearch indexes the way we need them so that we can create dashboards and visualizations on top of those. So why is everyone talking about Kibana? Well, I think this is a pretty nice graph or visual dashboard here representing exactly what Kibana can provide to you. This is a dashboard that's used in HR that shows a breakdown of employees by department. It has our employee count, full-time versus part-time, and part-time versus temporary. But it's a powerful tool, right? It doesn't run against a transactional database. So when you're building these, and if you have a large data set, you're able to run these without affecting the end users of the system because you're hitting those search indexes rather than the tables. You don't have to buy any extra licenses for this, and then the security rules that already exist for each of these automatically gets brought in when you build Kibana visualizations. So the content that has been developed by Oracle, this slide really highlights that. So I split it out here, a little bit of HCM, a little bit of FSCM, since this session was covering both, or not specific to either, I should say. But on the HR side, Oracle has provided about 8 dashboards, and there could even be 1 or 2 more out there now, but some analytics around payroll, benefits administration, trending analysis, job data. On the FSCM side, we've got operational data, contracts and grant. This is actually in the future. I apologize. I put the wrong slide here. But this is some of the analytics and things that are coming. This isn't actually what's out there yet, but these are things that Oracle has provided that they will continue to provide base analysis for this. Sorry about that. So when we talk about Kibana and PeopleSoft and how all of these tie together, at the foundation of the PeopleSoft search framework, which we see here, we've got these 4 red boxes. All of these are things that happen in PeopleSoft. And you start with a query, then PeopleSoft, you build a search definition, and that search definition then is built upon that query and becomes available to build that search index. That search index gets exposed to Kibana so that you can build dashboards and visualizations. And once you've built that in Kibana, you can bring those visualizations back into PeopleSoft. So that's where we're saying enable the dashboard. So turn those on in PeopleSoft. So your end users are really living in PeopleSoft. They're not living in Kibana. They're just consuming something that Kibana has created, but that will exist within PeopleSoft. If you think about anyone who has Oracle BI, right? You would have to actually go out to a separate reporting URL to get your Oracle BI tools. And I'm not saying this 100% replaces everything that Oracle BI does, but this does allow you to bring bits and pieces of information directly into PeopleSoft. So delivered search definitions. This is the slide that I was starting to talk about a little bit earlier, but Oracle delivers 32 different search definitions currently with the latest POM. And these crossover, for HCM specifically, these crossover all the various modules. As you can see, benefits has one. There's two different ones within compensation, e-performance, payroll. These are all the data points that you are able to bring into Kibana and do reporting. Oracle hasn't necessarily built a dashboard or visualization already on every one of these, but the capabilities to build those exist for you as an end user. And that's very powerful. I mean, Oracle doesn't know every organization's specific needs, right? They're only going to be able to create this broad, generic, say, and doesn't have, not overly generic, I mean, but everybody uses and reports differently. So they provide that foundation, and then you can bring in the additional data elements that you need. This is on the FSCM side. So once again, they have an assets. It was just called assets, so I only listed it there, same with billing. But a lot of different search indexes here. And on this case, it actually covered 2 slides. So there's a lot more search definitions on the FSCM side. A lot of stuff within contracts, and then order management, procurement, strategic sourcing, work management. So great starting points. And if what you're looking for doesn't exist in any one of these, you can go ahead and, as a, work with your development team. You can go in and really modify that base query and create your own search definitions, and then bring those into Kibana and create your visualizations that way. But ideally, you start with these search definitions, and maybe you're doing very little modification, or your development team is, and then your end users are still getting what they need. All right, so that was sort of my overview on PeopleSoft and Kibana. So now let's talk a little bit about this demo.
Hey, Gary.
Yes.
Before you get to that, this might be a good time for a question that came in the Q&A. Christian says, in slide 11, you mentioned that Oracle is working on new search indexes. Are these available to implementations that use MS SQL, or is it only for Oracle databases?
Yeah, so actually that's a great question. So remember, sometimes this term indexes can actually be confusing, because we're not talking about database indexes, we're talking about Elasticsearch indexes. So I would say it's platform independent, right? This is a Kibana Elasticsearch index, and that would be built within PeopleTools, and it doesn't matter if it's SQL Server or Oracle.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I skipped that. So this right here, I just set it up here. This is a dashboard, and what you see on this dashboard, really, we have 5 different visualizations. Is that 5? There's actually 6 different visualizations, including a selector, which is essentially a filter. Preparing data in Kibana. So you have to specify the search indexes that you want to build upon, and this is just a screenshot of that. This really happens just once. You specify the index, and then if you make any modifications, you may have to refresh that. But just pointing it out, and I'll show all of these when we actually log into the system. I just wanted to put it up here once for repetition. As I mentioned, there are 18 different visualization types that are available within Kibana. And these are all here. A lot of different types. I mean, standard stuff like area or line charts. And then you've got your vertical bar, horizontal bar, pie chart, metrics. So metrics, you use those a lot just to show a number, but maybe you're not actually going against a goal. And if you want to have a number against a goal, then you might go with what's called a goal or a gauge, where you have ranges and you want to see where you fall, and it has a high and a low end of that, and then you have your number in the middle. I've done some advanced things where we've needed to use a goal, a combination of a goal and a metric to maybe do a little bit more dynamic numbering. So with a goal, you set a set range. So if you say, hey, everything always has to add up to 10, and then where do you fall on that calculation to 10, 1 through 10. But what if the number is sometimes 15 or 20? You got to look at other ways that you can create that same effect, right? How can I show that to an end user and allow them? So as you work with the tool, there's a lot of ways. It's a powerful tool. I mean, it's an entire application on its own. So you are able to really do some advanced visualizations here. Once again, Kibana dashboard. So what I'm showing here is in PeopleSoft, what we typically do is we will bring in a tile, and it will be on one of our pages. So once you click on this tile, it will then invoke this full dashboard. And so anywhere I click on a tile within Kibana, it's going to fire up spawn off this separate page here that shows a full dashboard, and all of this would be fully interactive. So I'm going to switch over to, looks like I timed out, which is okay. So I've been pre-recording all these demos, but today I decided to go old school and do the point and click as I talk. Anyway, everybody should recognize this. This is standard PeopleSoft page when you come in. So,
Hey, Gary, we're still seeing your PowerPoint.
oh, I thought I was sharing the whole.
Would it be distracting if I asked you another question about indexes?
No, go right ahead.
All right. Are there search indexes for campus solutions also? If not, is Oracle planning to deliver these too, and when?
I believe there are search indexes for campus solution because it is the delivered search tool.
Right.
So yes, there are. I have not looked at those, but they should be able, I mean, I'll pull that up actually.
Okay.
We can talk about that. I won't necessarily pull up campus, but we can look at those search indexes and you'll get a feel for exactly what type of information you can bring into Kibana. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Can you see my screen now?
It's still the PowerPoint. Sorry, Sarah.
Too, but let me try this.
So you should have the option for new share in your toolbar. And that'll give you all options.
Oh, resume share. Here we go. Now do you see it?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. I was sharing my screen. I don't know why it only stayed on the presentation. Okay. So everybody should be familiar with a screen that looks like this. Maybe not this particular one, but I logged into our demo HCM environment. And when I click this drop down, I'm going to pull up the Workforce Administrator page. And then I'm going to look at the Workforce Insight tile. Now, watch closely right here. Did you see that little K flip through there? And I'll refresh that one more time. That right there indicated that this is a Kibana tile. So this tile right here was built in Kibana. The rest of these were built, I think these are all pivot grids, but this is how you would see a Kibana tile in PeopleSoft. Well, you could put it in a lot of different places, related content as a tile. You could actually create an entire page that was specifically a dashboard, but in this case, I just use this tile. So if I click on this tile, it's going to open up, still within PeopleSoft up here in this browser, this particular dashboard. And I think this was the actual tile that I had opened, but it's part of this overall dashboard. This is an interactive dashboard, and this is a delivered dashboard for workforce equity. So if I click on, and I'll just select the one ethnic group, white here. And it filters the entire page by that. I'll clear that one back out. What if I want to see this graph here? If I select 18 to 24 for female, it's going to ask me, do I want to filter this entire page by 18 to 24 and female? If I do that, then this graph's going to go to 1, the rest of these. But maybe I really just wanted to see all females, so I delete that. Now this refreshed here as well. And it does that across everything on this entire page. This is one of the visualization types, which was a pie chart. This one here is just a metric. Over here, this is a horizontal bar, a vertical bar, another pie chart. So this one was a pie, I forget what. Basically, this is just a different setting. I forget what it's called there. We'll look at it in a second, but 2 different ways to view the this data. And then here's a map. So it's fully interactive. If I click on here, I can look at all the, I've now added Canada as my filter. So go back to the top, we've got Canada and females, 102 females in Canada. Then down at the bottom, this is just a data grid that has all of those females in it that are from Canada. And if you expand on here, you can get kind of this full list of data. Once again, all of this directly within PeopleSoft. But if I wanted to see how this happened in Kibana, then I would go back, click that. And not everybody, so let me take that back 1 second. Not all of your users are going to have this little link that says open in Kibana. So this is, if you're just providing Kibana to end users, this would not exist here and they would live in this space. But when I clicked on open in Kibana, I'm now in Kibana, separate tab up here. And this is where your folks that will be developing Kibana dashboards would live and play. So in here, there are essentially 5 different selections on the left. This top one is what's called Discover. And this is an easy way to just quickly look at data that exists. So I click, oops.
Gary, can you easily export the data grid?
Yeah, well.
No, keep going with where you're going. Just good to know you can.
Yeah, you can. And if it's either from there, I think, is it on here? Might be at the bottom here. I know I've done it. I just gotta remember.
That's
where.
a long scroll. So it's doable. That's good.
What's that?
So it is doable. That's good.
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it might have been share actually that you sorry. I've done it before, but I don't exactly remember where I did it. But so Discover is a way to quickly allow you to look at data. Maybe you just wanted to find something. So in this case, I wanted to find Canada or Can. If I put this in there, it's going to find literally everywhere that it finds CAN. And this one, maybe there's a lot of data here because I did that, but maybe not a good example there. Yeah, there we go. So 361 hits. It filtered this data set now down to everywhere. But that wasn't just Canada because I didn't specify anything else. That was literally just like in PeopleSoft search index. This is showing how that works. It's a search tool, right? So it's taking can and looking for in every value where it found can. But whereas if I had selected country and said can, then it would have been, well, actually in that case, I just selected it, sorry. But this is an easy way for you to be able to view data quickly. I don't spend a ton of time in here, but I do go in here to just validate things, especially when I'm doing some manipulations. Visualizations, this is really where you will be working a lot. So these are all the visualizations that are built in this environment right now. There's 16 different visualizations. And as you can see, we've got a tag cloud, a line bar, a vertical bar, basically everything we saw on those graphs, plus there's some additional dashboards. And if you want to create a new visualization, it's very easy. I mean, come in here and it's always easy just to pick the pie chart because that one always comes up right away. Right, so in here, person, there's 2,200 people in this, no filters, right? And if I want to split that out by terms, and then we would split that by sorry, I went down too far. Let's do country. And that's similar to what we saw before, right? So in this data set, unfortunately, a lot of these are, nothing's been specified, but if you wanted to then modify this, so this is what I was talking about earlier, doing the donut instead of the actual pie. So just different ways to view this. I think the donut's much cleaner and a more modern way of looking at a pie chart. But where this really is nice is, okay, so great, I have this by country, but what if I simply wanted to add another layer to this? Well, I could select terms again, and then break that down one more by, or city. This may get too, yeah, so now you see all the different cities that have been specified here. So on the outer ring are the cities, and on the inner ring was the countries. And if you were to click on, say, the country, then the outer ring will update by each of those cities. And right now we're actually only seeing up to 5 values on the city and 5 values. So that's why, but if you change this, you could put additional values to make that as many as you want, but it also makes your visualization maybe less readable. So it all depends on your use case. And we're not filtering anything right now by what you have access to. So the data set can get pretty large fairly quickly. Very easy though to create visualizations in Kibana. I'm going to flip over now to the FSCM instance that I have. I'm going to close these just so nothing gets confused. So earlier I talked a little bit about these search definitions, and there were some questions around, hey, what is available from search definitions? So if you look here, these are all of the search definitions that are available. And this is the same list that I had in my presentation a few slides back. But these search definitions, if you open these up, you will see what is available. So I'm going to pick, and I use this grants example because I've been doing a lot of work with this lately. This is the delivered grants search definition. And here you can see this is built off of a connected query, and here's the name of that connected query. So what is available in this grants search definition? We've got business unit, contract number, name, a lot of information really tied to the grants, but there's nothing here about what's actually been spent on this grant, right? So I can do a high level report, maybe a count of the number of grants available, but I can't talk anything about the spend that was tied to this report. So what I would do in this case is I could go out and look at this underlying connected query to just understand what was built, what's this built upon. And if I come into this query here, I'm going to see that these are all the fields that we saw in the search index. If I come into here though, a lot of records here, I know for a fact there's nothing related to spend against that query here. So I couldn't get what I need based on this delivered search definition. So I'd have to basically create my own search definition off of a custom query. And that's what I did. I'm not going to walk through the steps of creating that. I'll just pull up what's been created. And what that really shows is it's these buckets down here, right? So I had a budgeted amount, a pre-encumbered amount, an encumbered amount, and then actuals. And I went ahead and I built this search definition, and then I imported it into Kibana. So let me open up Kibana on the financial side here, and I'll show you. I'm just going to go in through the delivered health center. I just want to get to Kibana because what I did, I didn't bring it back into PeopleSoft at this point in time. But so now I'm back in Kibana, which is the Kibana instance that's tied to the FSCM instance, not the HCM instance. So whenever you are doing the install, you will set up your environment, and you'll set this up for both FSCM and HCM separately. At least that's the way I've always seen it. I don't think you ever commingle those, but I'm not the architect on the back end. Okay, so what I want to open here now is this, sorry, I'll come back to this. So this is that grants query that I just talked about. And I'm going to change this time filter just to be 15 years ago so I can see some data, not searching around for it. All of these fields are fields that were in that search definition. They've been imported into here. And quickly to import data in, you just go to this index pattern and you specify exactly what you want to bring in. And then once you create this index pattern, it does become available here. So we're back in here. You can see I have lots of data. So at that point, I could now create some analysis, which is what I did. I actually created a lot of different analysis, but this one is for, this is the grants dashboard, and I created each one of these analysis. And what you see here is a count of the number of projects, and then we have budget remaining along with the actual dollar amounts that came here tied to each one of these projects. Then we used a vertical bar here to do the same thing, but this one is really the sum of your average monthly spend. So most months, this is monthly spend, this is spend remaining by project, right? So this project, they average about $15,000 a month, and for the remaining months, they have about $999 left. So they are a little overextended on that one, right? This one they average about $2,200 a month, but they do have $4,600 per month left. So this is a work in progress, something I'm developing right now. And I just thought it was a really good example based on some of the questions that you have, as well as the audience of this presentation. And then down at the bottom, this is one of these, another one of the data grids. Oops. Well, actually, I am going to jump one time, and I hate to do that. I meant to do this before. One other thing that I wanted to show in here was the I'll just go this way. you can also do some drilling in PeopleSoft. So this is another one of the delivered dashboards in HCM. And I know that it was set up with a drill that will take us to one. Well, at least you're getting to see some of the other dashboards as I click through these. So this, what happened here, this one exists on that previous dashboard as well. It's used as a link. I don't know what happened to it. There was a report here where you could, okay, you can drill, that you set up drilling URLs. And I was just going to show you that from Kibana, when you click, you will be able to drill directly into a PeopleSoft page. Whether you're in Kibana or in, even if you were here, the single sign-on would allow you, but normally your users would be drilling directly from already within PeopleSoft. They wouldn't be in Kibana end users. Anyway, that was a little tour around some of the functionality and capabilities within PeopleSoft and Kibana. Looks like. Do we have any questions that came up at this moment specific to what was demoed there?
There's a question that might be better for the end,
okay.
Even though we're sort of nearing that, about the challenges making Kibana work from a database administrator perspective. You know, what are some of the challenges?
Okay, I'll answer that at the end. We can
talk
about that. Yep. Okay, so now I just want to summarize and then leave a couple minutes left there at the end for this. So in summary, one of the things I mentioned was Kibana first was introduced to PeopleSoft in version 8.5.7. That was this performance metrics health center dashboard. It was useful for a small group of people. Everything I showed today is on 8.5.8. This is where you can access application data, the security rules are applied, and then the integration where you get these Kibana pages directly back into PeopleSoft. No additional licenses, and it's not a performance hit against your transactional system. As far as the applications, what I showed, there were over 100 plus existing search indexes between HCM and FSCM, and then additional ones, as somebody brought up, that are available within student financials as well. But the difference is anything that you build in Kibana for that student system, student administration, those will need to be, that will need to be built. There's no delivered dashboards at this point for student that I know of. So, but as you saw, it was very easy to create that pie chart and even any of the other charts. I mean, as long as you have the data in the search definition and then you bring that into Kibana, the Kibana side of it is, you know, pretty intuitive, pretty easy to use tool for someone that's familiar with reporting. It's not like you're writing a ton of SQL here. I mean, the SQL side of it really will be back at the beginning of your search definition and how you get that data into your query. That's the tough part. And then, you know, the applications are customizable and extendable, just as I talked about there with the student data. Some resources on Kibana. There's an analytics page on PeopleSoftInfo.com, and I speak with the Oracle product lead from PeopleTools, as well as the HCM lead, you know, every week or two, it seems like. And, you know, they're always telling me if any new information always ends up there first. But we also have a lot of information on our SpearMC website. So we've got some videos there, other presentations that we did. Some of the stuff I showed today, it'll show back up there, but a lot of videos that we've put out there, and we continue to enhance those and redo those as we learn additional things throughout this process. I mean, this tool from a PeopleSoft perspective in 858 has only been around since late last year. So not a lot of people out there have actually implemented this in the go live phase, but a lot of people are going through the process of upgrading and exploring how they can use these features. So really exciting. How do you make this work at your company? Well, first and foremost, you want to upgrade to 858. So if you're looking for a use case for 858, I think Kibana is a prime example of why you should go to 858. I have 2 of my customers, or 3 right now, that we're going through this upgrade, and really the driving factor is some of their folks want Kibana. They've seen it at conferences, they've attended various presentations, and they're excited. I mean, they feel like having this capability directly within PeopleSoft is an opportunity for them to really enhance their user experience, right? Yeah, I mean, you've always got all these people asking, oh, well, we want this modern look and feel, and there are things that we're not like. Well, things like this are bringing PeopleSoft in that direction.
Gary?
Yes.
I'm sorry. One of the attendees is wondering where they can find the delivered HCM and FSCM dashboards, or find a list of the delivered dashboards for HCM and FSCM.
I will put those in. I'll update that slide.
Great.
I will put those in. They're out there. If you look, you can pull them out from the various. Actually, I probably could easily pull up. I didn't go into this technical side of this. Navigator, PeopleTools, search framework, administration. These are the delivered HCM dashboards right now. These have been deployed. Then on the finance side, I can pull those up as well. So in closing, or still in summary, I guess, like I said, upgrade to 858. While I'm doing this, I'll talk. Upgrade to 858, familiarize yourself with those search indexes, because that is your foundational, that's really your foundation to your data sets. So you want to understand that. And that's going to be search framework, search indexes, and then underlying queries. Leverage the delivered content. So as Oracle provides content, maybe you don't like what they have there, but when you get into Kibana and you would need to do something similar, look at how they did a few things. There's answers out there that will help you. And then finally, partner with an expert, somebody who's been doing this is alongside Oracle, right? So definitely an opportunity to gain insight from those who have done it, and you're not going at it alone. As far as the dashboards on the financial side, they are here. So 2 for contracts, early detection. And so what happens here, as I was saying, if you see the tile, a lot of times you put that single tile, then you click on that, and that will open this contracts header analytics. In this case, early detection opens this dashboard. So really it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 delivered dashboards at this point in time. Any questions? That kind of brings me to let me pull my slides back up here. You guys seeing that now?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I think we covered all that, but once again, the key takeaway here is you got to get to 858. And if you need help with that, we're definitely upgrading customers, have done a couple customers already to 858. A lot of experience there. I'd love to help you out with that, and love to help you out with Kibana as well.
We have a question.
Sure.
How different are the elastic indexes built for search versus Kibana reporting?
So they're built the same way. It's the fields that you include that will determine, I think, whether it's specific for searching or specific for reporting, right? So if you're just searching, nobody's searching for typically for a dollar amount, right? So you may not have a dollar amount tied to that search definition, but from a reporting perspective, you need that dollar amount. You may not be searching on a particular ledger, department, or business unit. So they're creating, it's the underlying query that gets built. So you build a query with additional information.
Great. We have another question.
Sure.
Would you please show us the Campus Solutions search definitions? And are there delivered dashboards for Campus Solutions also?
There are no delivered dashboards for Campus Solutions. As far as the Campus Solutions search definitions, I don't have that, but I can show you where you can find those. How about that? So once again, in PeopleTools, you're going to go to Search Framework, Search Framework, Designer, Search Definitions. And then search, and the list that comes up, those will be your Campus Solutions. These say CS, those aren't Campus Solutions, this is a financials environment. But those will be all the search definitions that are available. So once again, if you click on one of those search definitions, you're always going to get this because the search definition is deployed. When you click on Map Search Attributes, you will see all the fields that are available by default. And if a field is, like in this case, I'll just say this month one, it's not checked, this one would not be available. So you would have to undeploy this, add that, rebuild it, and then refresh Kibana, but it would be available. So to view all your search definitions, once again, it's in PeopleTools Search Framework, Search Definitions. Any other questions?
One more just came in.
Yep.
Will the recording be available via the same Zoom URL?
So I'll actually,
Oh, you got that,
yeah,
Sarah.
I'll take that.
All right, I'm going to take off. I have another meeting. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, and Gary, so yes, the recording will be available, not through the same Zoom link. It'll be available on HEUG Online in the archives. And then Gary, one more question. How often do the search indexes get refreshed?
So they get refreshed. You will define when they get refreshed. So depending on your need and real, I don't know if this is a word, real timeliness of the data, you will define how often that is. So it could be daily, monthly, hourly. Obviously, you're going to hit the database whenever you refresh the index because you do have to run a query to pull that out. But once that data has been pulled out and put into the search index, you no longer hit the database when you query it off of Kibana. And as I mentioned earlier, Oracle is working on some enhancements to make some of those search definitions more real-time automatically, but that isn't available yet. And as I'm telling you guys to upgrade to 858, I think they actually said, hey, that's something we're working on 859. But they're trying. I mean, there's ways to get there, but always make sure you understand the use case of what you're trying to do with your analytics, and take this presentation all the way to the back whenever I showed that grid of all the various tools. Each tool has its place. Not everything necessarily would have to be on a dashboard. So maybe if there's something you truly need real time, maybe it's an opportunity for a pivot grid or something else, one of the other options.
Great. Gary, do you have a email address to contact?
Yes.
We have
just pulling that
Perfect.
up, actually.
We had one other question that says, what about challenges? But I feel like that might be best as a longer conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I can always do another webinar if you guys want. But yeah, definitely, I would say a few challenges are not everything's always in the search definition, so you have to bring those in. When you build a search definition, it can't have expression, so you may have to modify or create a new table definition, like of a view in App Designer, and then use that as the foundation of your query, and then that would pass through. That's a workaround that I had to do for the grants that I showed you guys. And there are ways to do scripting in Kibana. Now, they recommend not doing a lot of the scripting because of performance, and I've done some of it. It works. I haven't seen any major performance hits as a result of it, but maybe there haven't been huge data sets, or it's worked okay. But that could be a challenge. And how you get around that then is you have to go back to that foundational query and build some of those data elements back in your underlying data set, and then you just bring those in and can report off of those.
Okay, great. So we have hit the top of
Yes.
the hour. Gary's put up his email, so if you do have any additional questions, right, Gary, they're
Yeah,
free to
absolutely.
reach out to you.
Email,
Okay,
or you can call me if you want. I'm on
perfect.
East Coast time, so don't call me at 10 p.m. your time if you're on the West Coast. Other than
Okay.
that,
Well, that was all the questions. So the HUG would like to thank you, Gary.
yes.